last few days, one boy in Kashi has shaken the entire internet. His photo has flooded timelines, WhatsApp groups, and news channels. Politicians honored him, Vedic scholars blessed him, and critics questioned him. Some celebrated him as a prodigy, and others dismissed him with a smirk. 2000 मंत्र याद कर लिया तो क्या हो गया? इसका देश को क्या फायदा? आज के जमाने में इसका क्या यूज है? And just like that, the conversation turned into noise, opinions, memes, and debate, without anyone actually understanding what the boy actually had accomplished. But behind all this chaos, one question remains untouched. What did this boy really do? What is the secret behind those 2000 mantras? And what is Dandakrama? Why are India's oldest Vedic institutions calling it a once in 200-year miracle? And why has the achievement of a teenager triggered curiosity among scientists and a meltdown among critics? Today, we are going to address all these. So before moving ahead, do like and subscribe the channel and watch the full video. This video has taken a whole lot of effort in research to make it. Devvrat Mahesh Rekhe, a 19-year-old, reportedly completed a 50-day uninterrupted recitation called Dandakrama Parāyaṇam of about 2000 mantras from the Mādhyandina branch of the Śukla Yajurveda. This feat is described as extremely difficult, extremely rare, and is considered as crown jewel in Vedic recitation. To be true, when I first heard about him, I was really very confused. Because reciting mantras in a country like Bharat is very common. Many scholars chant for hours. So what is uniquely extraordinary in his chanting? To understand why his achievement shook the entire country, I asked ChatGPT to help me understand the Dandakrama loop or a diagram using 2000 numbers, not words. This is what it has responded to me. We need to pause down and look more deeper. Because the real question is not what did he chant. The real question is how is this thing even humanly possible? In the post, you might have seen certain words keep appearing, like Dandakrama Parāyaṇam, Śukla Yajurveda, Mādhyandina branch, completed in 50 days, 2000 mantras, and the claim that the last time this was done was 200 years ago. So let's examine every part of it. We all are aware that we have 4 Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samveda, and Atharvaveda. Today, we will address only Yajurveda. Now, the Yajurveda deals with rituals, yajnas, how to perform sacred actions, and the mantras used in those rituals. It has 2 main divisions, Śukla Yajurveda or white or pure form, and Krishna Yajurveda, that is black or mixed form. The difference is that in Śukla Yajurveda, the mantras and explanations of those mantras are distinct, whereas in Krishna Yajurveda, they both are combined. Now moving forward, Śukla Yajurveda itself has 2 surviving shakhas or branches, that is Mādhyandina branch and Kanva branch, whereas Krishna Yajurveda, which once had many branches, today only Taittiriya branch is the main surviving branch in it. So by now, we might have clearly come to know that where our Sanatan Dharma is going. But anyways, today our main focus is Mādhyandina branch of Śukla Yajurveda, widely practiced in northern India, Maharashtra, Gujarat and Nepal. Now the Mādhyandina Shakha is the complete Vedic curriculum that has many portions, but the one important portion is Śukla Yajurveda Samhita portion that includes more than 1900 mantras, which is the part Devvrat mastered. It includes famous mantras such as Shanti mantras, the Purusha Sukta in Yajur format, Gayatri related mantras, and many Yajna specific mantras for fire rituals. Now both Mādhyandina and Kanva are authentic ancient schools. They preserve essentially the same Yajurveda but define recitation style, intonation, teacher lineage and slight arrangement. Now this Mādhyandina branch is especially important because it preserves rare advanced chanting methods which includes Krama, Jata, Ghana and a very rare Dandakrama that Devvrat perform. So by now we are clear on terms about Śukla Yajurveda, Mādhyandina branch and slightly about Dandakrama, that it is one of the most rare and most difficult chanting method used in Mādhyandina branch of Śukla Yajurveda. Now before we directly jump into the intricacies of Dandakrama chanting, it's very essential to understand that why do these branches even exist and why chanting is preserved this way. In today's video, I'm not going to focus on the benefits of chanting. We are going much deeper than that on preservation, precision, and methodology. By the way, if this is opening a new perspective for you and making sense so far, there's a small request. Please like the video and subscribe. It really helps me bring more deep and meaningful content like this and helps this channel grow. Now moving ahead, to understand why Devvrat feet matters, we must first understand how fragile the Vedas are. Originally, Vedas were never written. They were Shruti. That is, they were perceived by rishis in deep states of consciousness and passed orally only through sounds from Guru to Sishya. That means for thousands of years, the Vedas are preserved only through Shruti, that is oral hearing, Smriti or memory, complex recitation methods like Krama, Jata, Ghana, and Guru Sishya oral lineage. Now, just as we see in TV shows, Shruti does not mean a person sat under a tree and magically heard Sanskrit sentences from the sky, or that a voice spoke to them in human language. The word Shruti used in the tradition is that which is received or perceived. That means rishis perceived the Vedic vibrations with deeper inner perception, not heard them like audio with their physical ears. So what were they actually perceiving? What is meant by vibration? Does it mean words? Well, no. In yogic science, we have three kinds of vibration. First is physical vibration, that is sound waves, air movement and audible frequency. The second is mental vibration, that is thought before it becomes a language. For example, before we say apple, there is an inner pre-verbal vibration. And the third one is consciousness vibration, that is patterns of intelligence in existence. Before sound, before thought and before language, this is what yogis call nada, the primordial sound. The rishis were perceiving the structure of reality as vibration and then expressing it in human language. So how did vibrations become word? First of all, they perceived pure vibration, not words. Then this vibration took shape inside their minds as patterns, syllables, mantras and Vedic meters. So this means they didn't hear Sanskrit. They translated the perceived knowledge into Sanskrit, just like scientists, when perceive a truth about nature, they express it using mathematics. But the question comes that how can anyone hear vibrations? Because the human system is not limited to 5 senses. Today, modern neuroscience shows the brain detects frequencies even outside the usual audible range. We detect emotional tone before we hear words, and we often sense presence without sound. Yogis intensified these abilities via breath control, sensory withdrawal or pratyahar, deep meditation or dhyana, prolonged silence that is mauna, and inner stillness that is nirodha. When the mind quiets, the consciousness can detect patterns directly. Rishis call those patterns as richa, that is hymns and insight that later form the Samhita portion of the Vedas. And that is why Veda is called Apurusha, that is not of human origin. Because the rishis didn't compose them consciously. They are not the author, they are only a medium. Secondly, Sanskrit language came out because it is phonically very much precise. Each sound carries specific energy. Each syllable maps to vibration in nature. Unlike English, where words are largely arbitrary, Sanskrit's phonemes can be said to mirror the structure of reality. So when a rishi perceived a vibration, the mind naturally produced the corresponding Sanskrit syllable. And of course, yes, different rishis perceived different aspects of reality: fire, water, mind, space, gravity, which is why Vedas contain varied rishis, styles and meters, even though the source or the pure consciousness is the same. I know today modern science will hesitate to accept this language, but research shows that the brain can access deeper layers. Monks in EEG studies shows unusual gamma synchrony. Subtle sound perception occurs in advanced practitioners, and deep meditation alters sensory threshold, meaning the brain can access layers of reality beyond normal sense input, and the rishis trained this ability to perfection. And this is why Vedas were not the paper. The Veda is the sound, and so it's chanted, not read. But imagine this, thousands of mantras spoken orally for centuries. What if one syllable gets dropped, one sound is mispronounced, one extra letter enters, or one swara misplaced? Even any one of this will change the entire meaning, the energy, and the effect of the rituals. Unlike in ordinary books where the meaning does not change if your voice rises or falls. For example, the Vedic word Indra can become Indra and Indra. and each version refers to a different deity or principle. And that is why the Vedic mantras are not offered to anyone or everyone. Only a student who lived a disciplined life, maintained purity, had a guru to correct mistakes, had undergone tapasya or austerity was allowed to learn. But even now the practical question arises that if Vedas are so valuable and fragile, why weren't they written? What if someone forgets it? Is memorizing really reliable? And what about Ved Vyas who compiled Vedas and today we have the written version of it if it was really not written? Imagine this, if one person miswrote a letter or a scribe copied incorrectly, that error would be passed down forever. And I already mentioned what will happen if someone recites incorrectly. Secondly, a written letter cannot convey the pitch, tone, rhythm or the breath. That means the written letter on a book cannot represent the sound, the very element that make the Vedic mantra alive. So writing breaks this control and allows anyone to access mantras without understanding their power. And the third is that ancient India lacked durable writing materials. Bark decades, palm leaves, clothes and ink were very fragile. And so oral memory proved more reliable than physical environment in those times. So writing was mainly prohibited to maintain their spiritual safety and lineage purity. And ancient Indians protected Vedas from such corruptions by not writing it, instead using chanting methods like Krama, Jata, Ghana and Dandakrama, which act like error detection and error correction algorithm. If one word is missing or wrong, the entire pattern collapses. So a book cannot give you that protection. Now, was it so easy to memorize? No, the question itself is wrong because memorizing was a yogic discipline at those times. Ancient students developed extraordinary breath control, concentration, the ability to sit for long hours, and high pranic stability. They memorized thousands of syllables not as mere words but as vibrations mapped into their mental body or the Manomaya Kosha. The human mind served as the most reliable hard drive. The Vedas are meant to be experienced, not merely read. Chanting changes breath, reorganizes energy, and alters the inner geometry that text cannot replicate. Just like the photo of fire cannot warm you or a written recipe cannot feed you, similarly, printed Veda cannot transform you. Now again, if this is opening a new perspective in you, do like and subscribe the video. Now when did Vedas get written? Now later, as lineages began to vanish, and invasions, disasters and local losses threatened oral continuity, Vedas were written down in palm leaves and other media across different places and times. But the written form is just a snapshot of the oral tradition, not the living Veda. Without a living chanting lineage, a written Veda is considered incomplete. And this is why the boy like Devvrat is significant. He carries the living sound form of the Veda, not merely its textual shadow. The vibration itself is transformative, and writing cannot transmit vibration. And so, looking into all these, the Rishis developed the unbreakable safeguard pattern to protect the Vedas from corruption and to remain alive. This system is known as the Vedic Patha or the recitation methods. We already came to know that the Mādhyandina branch or the Shakha includes special methods like Padpat, Kramapat, Jatapat, Ghanapat and Dandakrama, which is a rare one Devvrat performed. Now each method requires perfect word order, perfect sound, perfect breath and exact pitch. Changing tone can change meaning, ritual and the energy effect. So the chanter must memorize the exact tone for thousands of syllables. Now that you understand why chanting exists, let me show you how it works using a real mantra. Now here in front of you on the screen, we have a mantra with 5 words on it. Now we will clearly understand each patha. Now in Padpat, we break every sandhi, that means each word stands alone. And it was chanted word-wise. And its purpose was to learn the exact word, know where to split, know correct pronunciation. Now the second comes Kramapat. In the mantra, we have 5 words. Now we create pairs 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5 and then chant it. That means first we will chant 1 and 2 and then we will again start with 2 and continue till 3. Again we'll start with 3 and continue to 4 and then again we will repeat the 4 and continue till 5. Now this chanting ensures that every neighboring pair is memorized. Now the third ones come Jatapatha, which is the most twisted pattern. In this we use a formula that is AB, BA and AB, that is repeat for each pair. For example, for pair 1, 2, we will chant it as Om Dhya, Dhya Om, Om Dhya. Again for 2, 3, Dhya Shanti, Shanti Dhya, Dhya Shanti. Pair 3-4, Shanti Antariksham, Antariksham Shanti, Shanti Antariksham. Pair 4-5, Antariksham Shanti, Shanti Antariksham, Antariksham Shanti. Now this method eliminates forgetting, adding extra words and changing the order. Now the last one comes Dandakrama, the one that Devvrat performed. Now let us understand what Dandakrama actually is. Now Danda means a vertical staff or pillar and Krama is a stepwise expansion. It is a vertical expanding and contracting recitation pattern where the ascending pattern means building the Danda or the pillar. We keep adding one word each time. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have to chant descending pattern, that is shrinking the Danda. Now the words drop from the left and we only keep the letter segments, that is 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5 and 5. So if we form the Dandakrama diagram for our 5-word mantra, this is what it looks like. And it is very much special because it uses precise word boundaries, uses strict swara or intonations, requires long breath control, and it demands perfect memory for thousands of mantra. Our just 4-word mantra is looking like this diagram. Imagine this with 2000 mantras, not even words of those mantras. Just imagine how will the diagram look of 2000 mantras. And that is why only a handful of people alive today can perform this very correctly. This is why Devvrat's feat was celebrated. And it is told that before Devvrat, the one who performed this was Vedmurti Narayan Shastri Dev from Nasik, who performed this 200 years back from now. Until now, as per articles, we have just 3 known recorded history, including Devvrat, who has performed this task. And that is why Devvrat chanting was so special, because he performed 2000 mantras, the rare, most difficult Dandakrama part in just 50 days, with perfect tone, sound and splitting. And this is why he was nationally recognized. So next time you hear this question, iska kya fayda? Tell them this, that this is not about utility, this is about possibility. Just like we celebrate a cricketer's century, a scientist's discovery, an athlete world record, we celebrate Devvrat because he achieved something almost no human alive today can do. He revived a tradition that was disappearing. He showed the power of the human mind and he reminded to us of who we are. And that is worth celebrating. And to all those who says, how is this even helpful? Listen to me. This is not merely a cultural pride. This is the scientific opportunity to be used in cognitive sciences, where they will know how does a teenager store and retrieve 2000 complex sequences with perfect recall by studying his mind. Secondly, this can be used in speech physiology. How do Vedic students chant for 8 to 10 hours without vocal strain? Third, it can be used for scientists to know the brain plasticity as to why do Vedic learners show unusual mental stability and focus. Now let me tell you very honestly, if any American person chants today even just 2 Sanskrit slokas, half of India will stand up and clap. We feel really proud when foreigners touch our culture. But when our own Indian boy does something that no American, no European and barely any human alive today could do, 2000 mantras in Dandakrama path, we started criticizing him, saying, "Kaam ka kya? Desh ka kya fayda?" We must stop this habit of glorifying outsiders and doubting our own children. It's time we learn to celebrate our own heroes. India once had more than 1000 Vedic branches. Out of this, today, fewer than 4 are remaining. Devvrat is not just a student, he is a living bridge between ancient knowledge and modern science. So yeah, now ending this video. If this video really helped you gain really something deeper, do not forget to share this video. Please, it really helps this channel grow. And also, please like and subscribe. With this, closing the video. Up to next, stay safe, healthy, happy and namaskar.